So the second time, I had told John about this experience with my family and all. And he really wanted to experience it himself. Well, so we went out, again, we rented kayaks, and he and I were each in our own kayak this time. And we went later in the day. It was pretty windy, it was pretty rough. It's still, the snorkeling was spectacular, but there were no dolphins. So what that experience was for me was that it was a recognition to not take things for granted. That when these moments come, really embrace them and enjoy them. Okay, so that was a lovely trip in and of itself, but it was very different. The third time that we went was just this last time in Hawaii on this last vacation. And we were there with John's daughter, Jenny, and her boyfriend, Kenny, and it was John and I. Now, Jenny and Kenny, as John talked about last time, didn't have a level of comfort in the water. They had just learned in the pool in Hawaii how to snorkel. Because it's a little disconcerting. Have any of you tried it? Yeah, it's kind of odd to realize, oh, I can breathe in the water, and to realize that no, water's not going to come flooding in through your snorkel if you've got it adjusted right, and just that feeling of moving with fins. There's a lot of new things there. And they weren't very comfortable with the kayaking either. And so what we did was we elected to take tandem kayaks, and I sat in the back of one, Jenny sat in the front of mine, Kenny was in with John. So we take off across this bay, and sure enough, there are the dolphins, and they are just out in full force. It was so fun, and they were so excited, and Jenny and Kenny, to get to see this, and John finally getting to see it. It was just fabulous, and this is just something that doesn't get old for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it myself as well. So the thing is, again, I wanted to put on the mask, put on the snorkel, the fins, and hop over the side, because I wanted to be down in there with them, and this time can I see them under the water? And plus, I wanted to experience again that being in the blue. But the thing was, Jenny was very uneasy, and with a very gentle kind of a suggestion of the idea, I could tell that this was a definite no from Jenny, because she didn't have that comfort level. And what I would have been doing would be very selfishly doing what I wanted to do, to heck with her, and it would have been a whole different energy. And so in the moment, this is something I asked myself, is what would love do? And what would love do in this situation? Well, my answer was a very clear, love would stay in the boat with Jenny. And so we experienced the dolphins leaping and playing and frolicking from the surface, which was fabulous. And then John and Kenny had headed off toward the beach where the rest of the snorkeling is, and we took off after them. And after we got to the beach, John said to me, he goes, you know what, I was talking with Kenny on the way in here, and he said he'd be fine staying with Jenny on the beach, and if I want to go back out with you, so we can take the tandem kayak out, and I'll take you out, and you can go swim with the dolphins. Now this was really quite wonderful. So I just want to point out here a little bit of the love that was happening in this whole thing. Out of me truly wanting the highest and best for Jenny, and really wanting her good, I stayed in that boat. And John, in loving me and truly wanting the best for me, offered to come with me and take me back out there to do what he just knew I really was wanting to do. And this was something where he was going through a little bit of a sacrifice in a sense, because he was having a little gout flare up, and it wasn't real easy for him. Okay? But my good was important to him. And so we paddled back out there, and as we were heading back, because this is quite a lot of paddling, we met a couple people in another kayak, and they didn't look very excited. And so I said, well, so are the dolphins still at it? As we passed them, they said, no, we didn't see a thing. We were very disappointed. And so I thought, well, my little ego mind was like, things like, well, you snooze, you lose, no good deed goes unpunished, all those things. Before I got back to my higher spiritual self, I said, but I did the right thing. Okay? And so we talked just very briefly about, well, should we turn around and go back, or should we just give it a shot? And we decided we'll give it a shot. So we went back out to where there were some other people that were kind of hanging out in kayaks, and it was just a few paddle strokes on, and there were the dolphins. I said, there they are! So that the people that were giving up turned around and came back, and we were just, I put on the equipment, put on the mask, put on the snorkel, get into the water. And again, there's that blue, which I just love that feeling. And there in the depths were the dolphins, just like, where you see the depth of the blue, and it just like materialized out of the blue. It was just like, how if you look at a camera and you bring it into focus, where you've got the blur and then it becomes clear. Well, this is what I was seeing with these dolphins. And I would lift my head up and look, and I'd see them doing all their stuff that's out on the outside, and then underneath I would see this just beautiful ballet that they were putting on under the surface of the water. It was so exciting. Now, there's a woman that owned the villa that we were gifted with, that we got to stay in while we were in Hawaii, and she had told Jenny about how these dolphins would play this game with leaves. And I had thought at the time, well, that'd be cool. I'd love to be able to watch them do this. Well, the first little group of dolphins that I saw, I looked down and there's this brilliant yellow leaf. It's about this big. So there's all this blue, brilliant blue, and this bright yellow leaf. And it's like, I just thought, this is odd, because we're way out, quite a long ways from the shore. And this dolphin breaks away from the group, swims down to this yellow leaf, bumps it with its snout, turns around, and I still do not know how it did this. I swear it's like there was a split in its tail, because it picked up the leaf with its tail, somehow looping around it, and swam off with the leaf, like waving this little yellow thing. And I was just laughing in my snorkel, that's not an easy feat. And it sounds really odd in the water, but I was just laughing in delight. It was so fabulous. So what would happen is these dolphins would circle underneath, and so there'd be long groups where you'd see like nothing for a little while, and then you'd see 3, and then you'd see 5, and then you'd see 7, just swimming in this formation under the water. And I was just mesmerized. I was really just kind of following along, just being drawn through the water. And at one point, I was aware of hearing a sound. It was a very high-pitched noise. And I thought, I'm hearing them sing. This is so cool. And at one point, I looked down and I could count 15 just easily visible right underneath me in the water. And so then they swam off. And it was so interesting because it was like this lead squadron formation. It was just awesome. So they swim off, and then I could hear this high noise again. And I think, this is so cool, there's more behind me. I'm like surrounded in dolphins. And so what I did is I turned my head and I looked, and there was a humpback whale right there. Now, you may wonder, what is this rope for? So, if you actually, can I have 2 volunteers? Maybe Jeff, could you lift up that end of the longest one? And Susan, the one with the white end. So, just so that you can have an idea of the immensity that was swimming by me, what I did was I measured the length that a female whale is, a humpback whale, and it goes from there to where that knot is that is dangling out of his hand. So you can picture little Debbie with her little her mask and snorkel as this head of the whale first appears, and frankly it was so out of my recognition of what I was seeing. It's like, what is that? And then I realized it's a whale. I could see the barnacles on this whale. It was just right there. And so then, as it went slightly down in front of me, I realized there's not one, there's 2. Right next to it was a calf. And so I'm going to pick up this next one, unless you think it was just this little baby. The size of the baby. So if you go from where that metal hook is at the end and you go down, this from here to here is the size that they are when they're born, when they're newborns. And this was not a newborn. So within the first year, they double in size and they get out to where Jeff was. So this is the little baby that was swimming by me. Thank you. So I just wanted you to get an idea of the scale. Okay. So in that moment, I was just in awe and in total joy and wonder of this gift I was being given to be able to see this. It really is beyond words. And I don't know that I've been breathless too many times, but I now know what that means.